What happens when the world's largest gunpowder supplier pulls the plug, and you're left with empty shelves and no reloads? Right now, that's not a hypothetical, it's happening. Late last year, China, which controls most of the world's supply of nitrocellulose and antimony, two essential components in smokeless powder and primers, halted exports to the United States. And as of mid-2025, those restrictions still haven't been lifted. Powder shipments have stalled, primers are scarce, and across the country, reloaders are scrambling to find supplies. You're not hearing much about it on the evening news, but in forums, gun shops, and ammo warehouses, the panic is real. Prices are up, inventories are down, and a lot of us are wondering how long we can keep our reloading press running. In this video, I'm breaking down what's really happening, why it matters now, and what you can do to stay ahead before this shortage turns into a full-blown crisis. Hit the like, subscribe, and watch until the end. It's genuinely staggering how one decision, made thousands of miles away, can send shockwaves straight into American basements, garages, and reloading benches. In August 2024, China made a quiet but critical move. It suspended exports of nitrocellulose, also known as gun cotton, the foundation of modern smokeless powder, and antimony, a lesser-known but vital element used to harden bullets and manufacture the compound inside modern non-corrosive primers. Without those two ingredients, every step of the reloading process breaks down. What makes this restriction so severe is how centralized China's production capacity is. As of 2023, China produced over 80% of the global supply of nitrocellulose suitable for ammunition-grade propellant and nearly 90% of antimony refining globally. So when they stopped exports under the banner of national security, there weren't many alternative suppliers ready to fill the gap. Other countries do produce these chemicals, but not at scale and not consistently. Some military-grade nitrocellulose is manufactured in India, Sweden, and Germany, but often reserved for NATO contracts. Russia, once a secondary supplier of antimony, is off-limits due to sanctions. That puts U.S. civilian ammo production, especially powder blending and primer manufacturing, in a serious bind. So this isn't a temporary hiccup. It's not a seasonal delay. It's a strategic supply chain chokehold. And for American reloaders, it marks the start of what could become the most disruptive materials shortage we've seen in over a decade. You can almost feel it in the air at the range, and in every reloading forum, the anxious tension that says, something's not right, and it isn't. Since China's export shutdown, the effects have rippled through the American shooting community like a slow-moving landslide. Powders that were once reliably in stock, like Varget, H4350, and Unique, are now either impossible to find or listed at double the price. Even online retailers with good reputations are backordered for weeks, sometimes months. Brick-and-mortar stores in rural areas see lines when a powder shipment comes in and it's gone in hours. Primers, arguably the most sensitive part of the reloading equation, are even worse. On forums and auction sites, standard small rifle primers have reached $120 to $150 per brick, with large rifle and magnum primers going for even more. Many reloaders are only able to find Russian or Serbian-made primers, if at all, and even those are drying up. Communities like Reddit's R Reloading, Smith & Wesson Forum, and Trap Shooters are lighting up with stories that echo a common theme. I haven't seen CCI in 6 months. Powder Valley hasn't listed any H1000 since the fall. It's not just scarcity, it's uncertainty, and that's causing panic. Even more concerning is the behavior shift this has triggered. Shooters who previously loaded for recreation or hunting are now stockpiling. Some are cutting back on trips to the range, switching calibers, or even selling extra components to make a profit. This behavior echoes what we saw in 2020, but now it's driven by a global supply problem, not domestic politics. Then there's the email leak from major retailers, verified by independent sources, warning distributors that civilian orders are not guaranteed for the rest of the year due to redirected supplies. That's not speculation, that's a paper trail. So, when we talk about a powder shortage, we're not just talking about inconvenience. We're talking about functionality, whether or not you can keep shooting, training, preparing, and right now, that answer is getting shakier by the day. It's honestly remarkable and a little sobering to realize just how quickly the ammo industry can pivot when national security is on the line. As China's export chokehold tightened, U.S. ammunition manufacturers made a hard shift, prioritize military and law enforcement contracts, and delay or suspend civilian shipments. And it's not just speculation, we've seen it in writing. Retailers have shared internal emails from powder suppliers like Alliant, warning of product holdbacks well into 2025 due to overwhelming demand from the Department of Defense. Take St. Mark's Powder in Florida, the only plant in the U.S. producing military-grade smokeless powder. It's owned by General Dynamics, and they've been at full tilt supplying the military, with very little left over for the civilian market. Even Shelltech, one of the newer ammunition manufacturers, has gone public about the redirection of resources. Their CEO confirmed that increasing orders from the U.S. government are pulling components, powder, primers, and even brass away from the commercial supply chain. The message is clear. In a global squeeze, civilian shooters fall to the bottom of the list. And unless you're stockpiled or well-connected, you're likely to feel that pinch by this summer if you haven't already. The U.S. ammunition industry has undergone a swift and deliberate shift in response to the materials crisis, and civilian reloaders are being deprioritized, whether openly admitted or not. At the center of this shift is St. Mark's Powder, located in Florida. It's the only domestic facility currently producing nitrocellulose-based smokeless powder at scale, and it operates under General Dynamics. Since the Chinese export shutdown, production there has leaned heavily toward fulfilling government contracts. That shift wasn't just a decision based on economics, it was a matter of federal demand. As international tensions rise and global defense stockpiles are replenished, the U.S. government has made it clear that its needs come first. Behind the scenes, communications from distributors and industry insiders confirm what many suspected. Civilian powder and primer orders are being reduced, delayed, or paused to preserve inventory for military supply chains. These are not isolated incidents. Multiple large retailers have already sent advisories to dealers, stating that consumer-level availability of popular powders will be unpredictable for the foreseeable future. Shelltech, a growing name in the ammunition industry, publicly acknowledged the pressure in a March 2025 statement. Their leadership confirmed that raw components, especially primers and propellants, are being absorbed into military and law enforcement channels before any civilian allotments are considered. In effect, large-scale ammo plants are funneling their limited material toward government buyers first, and that includes the same types of powder and primer products reloaders once had regular access to. The reallocation doesn't stem from hoarding or mismanagement. It's a calculated shift in the logistics pipeline. Manufacturers are responding to federal contract volume and international obligations, particularly as U.S. aid to allies and training operations continues to increase. Civilian shooters and reloaders are now left competing for what's left after those contracts are filled. The end result is a squeezed supply chain that's no longer structured to serve hobbyists, hunters, or even competitive shooters. For many, the powder and primer supply they counted on for years is no longer a given. It's a luxury, and one that's rapidly slipping out of reach. The supply crisis isn't just about raw materials disappearing, it's about how geopolitics is weaponizing logistics, and ammunition production is now caught in that storm. China's decision to halt the export of nitrocellulose and antimony fits into a broader pattern of strategic resource control. Over the last decade, Beijing has quietly tightened its grip on materials. The West depends on not only for ammunition, but for energy, electronics, and defense systems. These aren't temporary shortages caused by market fluctuations. They are intentional supply chain levers used to exert pressure and assert dominance over rivals. Nitrocellulose and antimony are now joining the same category as rare earth elements and lithium, strategic resources that are no longer traded freely without consequences. That shift in global posture has changed how Western nations view these materials. European defense contractors have openly admitted to over-reliance on Chinese nitrocellulose, prompting new supply chain risk assessments across NATO. American officials are quietly sounding the same alarms, though without the same public attention. Efforts to diversify supply are underway but remain in early stages. There are moves to restart antimony mining in states like Idaho, where deposits exist but have long been dormant due to environmental restrictions and low market demand. In parallel, the U.S. is pursuing partnerships with countries like Australia and Tajikistan to create alternative sources. These are smart steps, but none of them offer short-term relief. Developing mines, securing transport routes, and building refining capacity takes years. Trade policy is also compounding the problem. Tariffs introduced to curb dependence on foreign defense components have made it more expensive to import alternatives, which only deepens the squeeze on civilian reloading materials. While the intention behind those policies is long-term independence, the near-term result is a reduction in flexibility, especially for those outside of government purchasing channels. These geopolitical realities are now embedded in every powder container and primer box. This is not simply a matter of economics or logistics anymore. It is a symptom of a global competition where ammunition, even at the civilian level, is no longer treated as just a product, but as a strategic asset. The shooters, reloaders, and hunters who once relied on a steady commercial pipeline are now at the bottom of a reshuffled global priority list, waiting on systems that no longer put them first. Facing these shortages doesn't mean giving up control. It means adapting with intention. More reloaders are turning to local supply networks, swapping components among trusted circles, or forming buying groups to split bulk orders. Others are rethinking their shooting habits, reducing casual range time in favor of focused practice or hunting prep. Some are getting creative with alternative powders, adjusting loads based on availability while staying within safe data. A few are even retooling presses to accommodate calibers with better supply outlooks. This is about flexibility, community, and staying sharp because the bench doesn't have to go silent. It's remarkable how something as technical as powder chemistry can suddenly feel personal, but that's exactly where we are. This isn't just about reloading. It's about preparedness, independence, and how much control we really have over the tools we rely on. When a foreign government can halt 2 ingredients and cause a nationwide scramble for ammo components, it reveals just how fragile our supply chain really is. And for those of us who value self-reliance, that fragility demands a response, not just frustration. The good news is that reloaders are problem solvers by nature. We adapt, we build, we share. So if this video brought you clarity, helped you stay one step ahead, or gave you something to act on, pass it on. Share it. Talk to your community. Because staying informed is just as critical as staying loaded. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next one.